as we would like to think about it, in Escorial in Spain, the Royal Palace. This is where you've all been called today to come and give reports on the efforts of colonization that have taken place in the Americas up to this point. So I want to just briefly give you an introduction because this exercise in some ways emulates an actual junta, an actual meeting of authorities that took place in the middle of the 16th century, in 1550, that involved two very important figures for the history of the early modern Hispanic world. Juan Gines de Sepúlveda and Bartolomé de las Casas. Bartolomé we've already spoken about in class. And that particular meeting of these two individuals has been termed the Great Debate. One of the leaders of the junta for that particular moment summarized the purpose of that exercise in the following way. We are to discuss and determine what form of government and what laws may best ensure the preaching and extension of our Catholic faith in the New World, and to investigate what organization is needed to keep the peoples of the New World in obedience to the King without damage to his royal conscience. So, I want to proceed to introduce the members of the junta today who will be making a determination and advising the King. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Ryan Schmitz. Dr. Schmitz is an assistant professor in the Spanish department who specializes in Golden Age Spanish literature and the impact of the European discovery of the Americas. I'd also like to introduce Mr. Chad McCutcheon. Mr. McCutcheon is a PhD candidate in the Department of History who specializes in the social history of the Andean colonial world with an interest on identity and race relations. And then, though he needs no introduction, I want to remind you of Mr. Bill Cahoon, who is also our teaching assistant, who is an MA student in the History Department, who specializes in the social and cultural history of modern Latin America, though he has an increasing growing interest in the late colonial and 19th century Andes. I want to remind you of a couple of things. We will be keeping strict time, 2 minutes, right? Please come up to the podium over here, address the junta, address members of the other social groups that are present. Once we get to the Q&A session, I will look to the research specialist to tackle some of these questions, but any of the other members of the groups may also respond. Any questions before we get started? All good? Okay, so the junta will now hear from the first member of the Coalition of the Slaves and Runaways, Ojimai.
Esteemed junta, we, as the representatives of the African slaves and Cimarrones, have a great deal to enlighten you on our current state of affairs. The vast majority of us are runaway slaves who fled the inhumane manual labor and terrible conditions that we were subjected to in mines, sugar refineries, and the dreaded obrajes. Many of us were worked to the bone for nothing, and many of us were given the false pretense that our menial income will amount to anything. Now, as a result, we joined up into many communities with the common interest of bettering ourselves and protecting our basic human rights. You as the junta have made rules for the mitigation of abusive treatment towards us. However, the corruption of the encomenderos and the government officials, coupled with the distance and the difficulty of governing the New World, means these rules have not and will never be enforced. What have we achieved since arriving to the New World? Well, we the runaways have regained our basic human right of freedom, whilst many of our peers remain on plantations toiling to their deaths. What have we lost? Our common identity as Africans. We're not allowed to speak our language without any dire consequences, and we've been indoctrinated by a Christian faith that not all of us believe in. The main obstacle we face is the torture these encomenderos deem work and the impediments placed on our freedom. Many have not run away from their plantations, but their discontentment is more than evident. Many have resorted to softer forms of rebellion. Some feign ignorance, some feign illness. They break their tools, and they work slowly, intentionally, to make sure that work is not done on time. This only serves for the failure of meeting quotas, and it stifles the economy. Fair pay and humane treatment may be the secret to an economic boom. Thank you for your time.
All right, next we will hear from the representative of the Coalition of Tlaxcalans, Alan.
Dear Junta, we Tlaxcalans are located in the east central part of Mexico, which is known as the Altiplano region. We are known as a group that has been seeking for revenge for many years. Many will call us traitors to our own beliefs, but we are smarter than anyone could think. Allying with the Spanish has helped us conquer Mexico along with them, and has granted us the Spanish resources such as weapons, technology, wealth, and every single odd is in our favor. The Aztecs have treated us badly for the last years by collecting tributes from our men, women, and children, which reflects how this kind of treatment has made us side with the Spanish. We wish that the indigenous groups around the Americas will help us come together and help one another without the need of having the Aztecs having a dominant mentality and also being prideful and greedy. The Spanish have brought us tax and encomienda exemption, which means that we don't have to pay any tributes to the Spanish, as well as contributing with forced labor. Although the Spanish didn't treat us inferiorly, we still have to contribute the Spanish crown with resources such as lands, crops, and people, which were key elements towards the conquest of Mexico. We learned how to read and write, and have also adopted baptism and Catholicism to our culture, which has worked in order to unify our culture, traditions, and communication with the Spanish. And with the accomplishment, we have been successful in being a dominant ethnic group in the Americas. Thank you for your time.
All right, next we will hear from the first representative of the Encomenderos, Miners, and Ingenio Owners, Lawrence.
Hello. As the Encomenderos, Miners, and Ingenio Owners, we have been the leaders of economic conquest as a result of our leadership in seeking a place for your reign in the New World. Rightfully awarded our encomiendas, we sought the resources of labor as we sought the resources of land. In New Spain, there are 506 encomenderos, and in Peru, there are 400 encomenderos, who mine for gold, silver, and other precious metals, cultivate the land, make dyes out of which to make meal, among many other fruitful activities. In this way, we have only benefited you. We have given you the opportunity of countless riches. This has only benefited your interests. A mighty government such as yours needs materials, resources, and money. We would like to remind you that the encomenderos have always worked in your favor. Not only a large source of income, we have been vital in securing a labor force thus far that not only works for us, but cooperates with you. We have been instrumental in the pacification of the natives who otherwise would be eager to rise against you. However, this population has fallen in recent years. This is one of our greatest concerns. One of our only problems has been the decline of our workforce. We are concerned not only about our prosperity, but yours. We believe the greatest opportunity lies within the increased trade with Africa. We are here today to seek opportunity for an increased slave trade, which would only work in your benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will hear from the first representative of the Aztec Coalition, Alejandra.
The Spanish first came into our lands in 1519. Being the Aztecs, inhabitants of Tenochtitlan, our native language is Nahuatl. When the Spanish first came, a man called Hernán Cortés discovered our richnesses and was highly motivated by gold and glory. Before the Spanish conquest, we had achieved a great empire based on rule on our beliefs in multiple gods. However, when the Spanish arrived and conquered our empire, the Spanish did not only take our gold, but also culture, religion, beliefs, land, and most importantly, our home. However, we had to face some obstacles in the way, like germs, diseases. The Spanish brought with them diseases such as the smallpox that we were not used to or exposed to. Also warfare, when we actually fought the Spanish. And they brought with them highly guns, horses, and also psychological warfare. We were abused in labor. We were also, even in the letter that Fray Pedro de Gante wrote to King Charles, he said, "A kick, a hair pulling, or a clubbing is never lacking." This, of course, benefited the crown. The power of conversion to Christianity helped them conquer us and have more power, and economically, because they were able to gain money for everything we did, and this stolen our gold and resources.
Thank you. All right, from the missionaries, Barrett.
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the time to allow me to address you. It is the opinion of the missionaries that the junta take into consideration the true goal of this enormous endeavor. If it is truly to spread the faith of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, then we advise the junta that they reconsider its opinion on the encomenderos and secular clergy. Our progression on conversions, though consistent, has been hindered by these two groups. They have presented many obstacles, including but not limited to the excessive forced labor of the native populace and the excessive mistreatment of the native populace. This, coupled with the natural obstacles that the terrain presents, such as demographics of the region, language and cultural barriers, and misinterpretation of the text by the native populace, has significantly depreciated our ability to convert. While we have achieved a significant amount of conversion, it is our opinion that the number could be greatly increased and further benefit the Crown's interest in the spreading of the word of the Lord if they did take into consideration our position. If Pope Paul III's words, "The native souls are as immortal as those of the Europeans," stand true, then I ask the junta to strongly consider our position on the treatment of the indigenous populace.
Thank you. And we will hear from the Coalition of Bureaucrats, Annie Kate.
Thank you for listening to me speak today. I'm speaking on behalf of the provincial bureaucrats. We have placed ourselves in multiple posts in different areas in New Spain, mainly settling in smaller cities and maintaining larger networks. We have achieved the expansion of royal authority from urban areas to countryside while keeping a military background. We have participated in the distribution of goods such as food, clothing, and mules into the natives' smaller towns and villages. We have achieved your goal in introducing us into the new world by both providing subsistence for non-encomenderos and poor encomenderos. We have effectively monopolized commerce between the Indians and their jurisdiction and the outside by providing raw materials on credit and then purchasing the finished goods. While performing these efforts, we came across a few obstacles of language barriers and Indian resistance of labor, but despite these obstacles, we have still been able to achieve what you have intended for us to do in New Spain. We have achieved your intent on sending over the questionnaire to gain knowledge on what your land looks like and what has established itself in your land. We, the provinces, were able to answer several of your questions, but we recruited some of the native leaders to provide some information and draw out the land and maps. We try to maintain peace between us and the Indian community to a certain extent, since the money paid to the Crown to secure this office, the commercial profits of the merchants, speculator who advanced the funds to purchase the appointment, and the profits earned by us, all were paid out of the collective earnings of this Indian community.
The practical result of our interest group was to reduce the potential for dangerous conflicts between powerful interest groups in the New Spain and distant metropolis, while of course achieving your wishes in New Spain.
Thank you. Okay, and we will hear from Samira, who is representing the secular priests.
That the Almighty Father gives to the Majesty and the Junta a prosperous life. In obedience to your Highness' command, and the initiative of spreading the word of the Lord Jesus Christ, I, as a secular priest, will say that what pertains to me in reference to the evangelization of the New World's colonies. Prior to our arrival, natives had their own gods. As a result, with great sorrow, we had to take tough measures for the good of the natives and for the good of the Spanish crown. Unfortunately, regular priests believe that our measures are ineffective. Regular priests do not understand that ignorance makes an act involuntary. Natives are ignorant of the faith. Therefore, if they knew that our Lord is the only way to heaven, their conversion will be voluntary. We are like the doctors who provide the medicine to the sick man. Even if the sick man doesn't understand the importance to take the medicine, the doctor has the obligation to ensure that the patient takes the medicine in order to survive. Now, we request to the junta to limit their regular priest activities. Their complaints are causing the natives to rebel. It is very important to recall the regular priests might be virtuous and learned, but there are still apprentices who sometimes fail their duty. Majesty, we have an obligation with God to look forward to the conversion of natives. As well, we have an obligation with the society, Spanish society, to go along with the crown interest. That's why we have kept the balance between the best of both worlds, since the time that we arrived to the New World. So, I request the junta to consider our advice for the well-being of the church and for the well-being of society.
And finally, we will hear from the representative of the Inca Coalition, Cesar.
Hello. In the hills just outside of Cajamarca, our people prepare to celebrate a victory over a local village. When we hear word of men walking around with wool on their faces and pots on their heads that they don't use to cook with, making camp in the valley just outside of the city. Some have said that these men are half beasts, some say that they're gods. But as it was said that a few of these men have entered the city to speak with King Atahualpa, but they succeeded only in making him angry. On the next sunrise, Atahualpa decided to meet with the leader of these men, and they were greeted by one man who shouts insults at our leader, followed by loud noises that seem to come from everywhere, just as these man-beasts begin to show themselves and strike and kill our people. We are warrior peoples who have failed to protect our king, allowing him to be captured and imprisoned by these animals, who now demand half a room's full of treasures for his release. Although the gods have cursed our people with strange round marks on their bodies as they begin a slow, painful death, we will meet this demand for the return of our king. Then we will make the riches they seek seem less valuable than the lives they wish to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that very effective state of affairs. We'd like to hear now what your intentions are as we move forward with colonization. And for that, I'd like to call first on Abby Hamilton to tell us how the slaves and the cimarrones propose moving forward.
Esteemed members of the junta, we as slaves and runaways have formulated a solution for future colonization that we believe can be beneficial to us both. We propose that we are to be a paid working labor force. By paying us Africans to work, even at minuscule rates, we will increase incentive for us to want to work. Our productivity would increase because we'd have something to work for, and higher productivity leads to higher profits for our employers. We are aware that Encomenderos have created a free wage labor payment system for natives, yet we are the ones who are accustomed to living with Europeans, and we have the best work capability for required jobs and plantations and mines. This being true, we believe our payment to be justified. Also, if work conditions are improved, those willing and wanting to work will increase, and we'll have to compete to secure a job, and the best way to secure a job is to have the highest working productivity. If we are no longer slaves, but free people, we submit ourselves to their financial requirements like Spanish taxes. This directly benefits the Crown because their tax revenue would increase exponentially from our taxes. These changes made, we can guarantee a drastic decrease of runaways. Why would we run away if livable conditions and payment are offered to us? This is advantageous for both Encomenderos because they would no longer be wasting money buying us and then not reaping any financial profit from it. Additionally, we've watched you struggle converting the natives and ourselves to Christianity. But why would we accept a religion that only has persecuted us and harmed us in the past? If our owners were to show us the compassion they preach to us, we could afford Christians the credibility they believe they deserve. Many of us would even fully convert, meaning the Crown gains thousands of new converts as well as thousands of people going to churches and paying tithes. So if you make us free, one way or another, we will make you money. That's the goal, isn't it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. From the Tlaxcalan Coalition, Stuart.
Esteemed Junta, as we all know, we the Tlaxcalans made the conquest of Mexico possible with Hernan Cortez. Without us, who could say what would have ever happened? From very early on, we have sided with the Crown ever since. We sent thousands of our own people to support him on his way all the way to Tenochtitlan. After the conquest, we converted to Christianity immediately. So for obvious reasons, we demand and receive certain privileges from the Spaniards. To aid in future colonization efforts, the Crown needs to listen to the complaints of the native populations. While the Tlaxcalans have had much economic success in the form of cochineal, it has come at a great price to us. Even in Tlaxcala, where we have received other privileges, we still experience potentially devastating problems that are probably even worse for other native groups. Due to the farming of cochineal, Tlaxcala has been having an increased shortage of food. Food that was once cheap has become expensive. And the only the rulers care about is making money. With this in mind, the Crown needs to remember to limit the amount of cochineal that farmers are able to grow at a time. Because if our people are dying off from starvation, there will be no more people to work, and therefore far less cochineal for both Tlaxcala, Spaniards, and the Crown. In order to continue to succeed in America, it is imperative to be good stewards of the natural resources that the Crown is interested in as to keep both the people and the Crown happy and economically lucrative.
Thank you. And we will hear from Abigail Valencia, representing the Encomenderos, miners, and Ingenio owners.
Your Royal Highness, we, the Encomenderos, come before you to ask for your permission to increase the slave trade. The reason being because slaves are more efficient than the Indies. Slaves are skilled blacksmiths, smart supervisors, and best of all, immune to diseases. Such action will ensure the economic success of America due to the slaves' efficient work. Under the name of God, we will make the Crown prosper beyond its potential in all future endeavors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And from the Aztec Coalition, Hannah.
We, the Aztec people, have a few things we want the Crown to know. First, we welcome the Spanish. Without them, we would not know many of the riches present in the world. But we do have one objection. To succeed in America, the Spanish must coexist with us. We know they're inferior to the Spanish, but we want to hear our side. We believe that the Bible is a book of celestial and divine works, and we would love to learn more about these teachings.
The Spaniards need to realize that we still believe the gods we worshiped for hundreds of years before they arrived are still gods to us. They're the ones who brought us everything we need to survive. When we needed water, we prayed to them and they brought water. When we needed food, they brought us a large crop. They are the ones bringing the riches that you find here of the land. If the Spanish allow us to continue these practices, we will be able to bring you a better harvest and better products from the land. It is to help you. With our gods brings us the greatest riches. Again, we know we are inferior to the Spanish, but we will not give up worshiping our gods. If this mindset is taken into consideration, we will be able to live amongst each other in a better fashion and give more to the Spanish. Thank you.
From the missionary group, Monica.
Hello and good afternoon. I'm here today to propose and recommend a deal that would help us accomplish our main goal for coming here. If we were to work alongside with the encomenderos, we would prevent them from overworking the indigenous people. And as missionaries, we would have more time to teach and thus convert them into Christianity. As a consequence of being overworked and maltreated, the natives are not accepting the plan of salvation because they don't want to go to a heaven where there are Spaniards. We also think it would be beneficial that we bring back the schools to begin teaching Christianity at a young age, and they can go on later and spreading the word of God. If these proposals were to be met, it would help us better accomplish our main goals of converting natives and giving you, our king, the credit for all of the saved souls. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jasmine, representing the provincial bureaucrats.
Good afternoon, dear Humta and ladies and gentlemen who stand before me. I know there are many people who object to slavery, but I'm here to propose another different approach. I suggest that we give 1/5 of all mining to the Spanish Empire because this will help the Spanish Empire to become a powerful nation in our century. And I think we should have religion mixed in with politics as well. We should use existing church governments for its own political uses. And we should have a hybrid system. And we should have a hierarchy in the New World to sort, like, the more Spanish blood you have, the more higher up you are on the chain. Also, a lot of people are objecting to the encomienda system. They think it's inhumane, they think it's cruel, they think it's abusive. We could have some defenses to that. We could just change it to where natives would be considered free people and we would pay them low wages, sometimes no wages, and then put some restrictions on them as well. However, slaves are happy, and by God's destiny, they are meant to be slaves. And the African slaves are condemned to be slaves because of Noah. Noah was the people of African Americans, and so the Bible agrees that African Americans should be slaves. Also, Indians were not freely disposed to receive the faiths, and we depend on Indian slaves to fish for pearls at the islands of Cabuga. And we should do natives do low-paid, unpaid labor for a certain number of weeks, months, a year on Spanish-owned farms, mines, and works in public projects. This can take the place of the Indian community system as well. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Taylor, representing the secular priests.
Your Majesty, I stand here today to tell you about the guidelines and rules we believe should be placed for secular priests to follow. We believe that secular priests should follow the rules of the hierarchy and treat the Indian slave with respect and press appropriate punishment. With this regulation, peace will be restored among them. With peace between groups, Indians will not revolt or try to run away, thus ending this issue. Regular priests and secular priests should help each other and strategize together, since they have the same goal at the end of the day, which is to spread the word of Christianity and to permit people to become Christian. Regular priests have relationship and are more involved with the Indians, while the secular priests have more of the knowledge. We believe that with each of their contributions, it will help the conversion of Christianity. If the secular priests disobey the rules we give them, they should be punished and maybe have the right of being a priest taken away. Together, these rules and guidelines will help the future colonization, help with the relationship between the groups, establish the rights of the Indians, and rules for secular priests to follow, with the Crown's best interest at hand. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will hear from the second representative of the Inca Coalition, Lauren.
Good afternoon. After hearing from every representative with respect to the Crown and the power of your God, we the Incas suggest the Crown allow us to organize the agriculture and mining we do in our lands ourselves, so they can be more profitable for the Spanish and the Inca alike. We know this terrain and we know how to mine the land. For a century, we have grown and gained wealth. Our potato crops are successful and we extract tons of gold and silver, but now that our people are dying from exploitation, violence, and disease, we are not as productive. We acknowledge and accept that you are now the authority. Your advanced weaponry and horses have proven to us that you are superior, but it is in your best interest to let us run things ourselves, rather than being subject to the oppression and the corruption of the encomenderos. You will receive just as much tribute, but our workers will be more efficient if they work for themselves, which also allows you to spend your time, money, and resources elsewhere instead of trying to force us to work harder. If we can control ourselves, less of us will die. We are willing to work for you and give you what we collect, but if you enslave us, we will revolt. We propose an alliance between my people and the Spanish because we will be more productive and you will be more successful in these lands. My people understand and respect your authority and your God, but if you continue to disrespect my people, you will not prosper here. We made a mistake in underestimating the power of your conquistadores, but even by the account of your own men, our forces are formidable and will not underestimate you again. We urge you to work with us and give us the opportunity to flourish once again, serving you under the Kingdom of Spain.
My, I have to say, these are some very, very interesting proposals, and this junta is not sure what to do. I wonder if the representatives from each group might have any objections to the type of proposals that we've just heard, or if there is anything that you would like to add to what has already been said. So I'd like to hear first from the slave and cimarron group. Madison.
Gentlemen of the junta, it has been brought to you by the encomenderos that there is a lack of workforce in the colonies. For an increase of slave trade to work, let's look at the way that you, the Spaniards, have treated the native workforce, killing them, abusing them. How would this work with a different race? More slaves would only mean more of a rebellion, which your colonists have already complained about. We outnumber you, and increasing us would only increase your threat of future rebellions. The bureaucrats have also asked for an increase of slave labor. But as we have mentioned earlier, what incentive is there for us to work? We are not paid, we have no rights. We can either die on the run or from overwork. So, let's think back to the natives. Instead of bringing in a greater threat, maybe we should bring in a greater pay for us as the slaves.
and that way we will also be bringing in a greater income to you as the Spaniards. Thank you.
And we will hear from Alex representing the Tlaxcala.
Dear Junta, first we would like to say, the Tlaxcalans would like to say that we are grateful to the Spanish for helping in abolishing the Aztec enemy. Without your help, we would still be forced to sacrifice thousands of Tlaxcalans to the Aztecs every year as tribute. With your help, we were able to form an alliance with Cortez that would prove to be beneficial to us. And in return, we have boosted production of the dye Cochinal, and we propose that we hope to cut back production of Cochinal because while it brings in more money, my people are struggling for food, making us physically unable to collect the dye. We ask for a production decrease so as to give back us ability to work in a healthy environment. We would like to open up the forum to any questions that are proposed by, per se, the Aztecs. Any objections?
Perhaps we can deal with that as soon as we get to the Q&A. I'm sure they'll have some comments. But if you don't have anything else, we appreciate your participation. And representing the encomenderos and miners, Jonathan.
Good afternoon, Junta. Good afternoon, everybody. While there have been harsh behaviors that have taken place towards the natives, these savages refuse to submit themselves to the love and the Lord of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Therefore, their souls shall be damned to hell. In regards to these somewhat true accusations of these heinous acts towards these savage beasts, I have no sympathy. These non-believing heathens need to understand that this land now belongs to us and that these encomiendas are justifiable and our labor quotas need to be met. We've given them chances, we have read to them the requerimiento, and enough is enough. You say you outnumber us. Shall we remind ourselves of Pizarro and the Incas? Shall we remind ourselves of Cortez and the Aztecs? And for the slaves, these slaves are our property, and therefore they have no say in any matter regarding how they should be treated. These accusations you have heard from them are true in the case of runaways, thieves, and insubordinates. You break the rules and there will be consequences. Property cannot have property. To the missionaries, the Spanish have had a presence in the New World since the beginning of the century. And it is high time that these natives and slaves have started to abide by our command. We work for the Spanish crown and no one else, and everything we do is for the greater good of Spain. To the secular priests, these native savages do not wish to abide by our standards, and they do not wish to embrace the Spanish lifestyle and our correct way of faith, that is the Catholic Church, and therefore they deserve nothing better than to labor for us. How can one claim that their savage way of life is right when they are oblivious to the truth that is the Catholic Church? To the bureaucrats, we are generating an abundant amount of income to the Spanish crown, and because of our encomiendas, the economy of Spain is now beginning to show improvement. And it is in our mutual interest that we align with one another to further our economic prosperity for the greater good of the country, that we work together to stimulate an increase in profits by transporting more slaves into our labor force. To the Tlaxcalans, we commend you for your allegiance to the Spanish and ask that you continue your cooperation and to set an example for the rest of these beasts. To the Junta, lastly, I assure you that no real harm is being done, and our first and only priorities are to the Spanish crown and to the Catholic Church. Thank you.
Okay. And we will hear from the Aztecs. Emily.
As the Aztecs, we take much pride in who we once were. We once had no fear of death, not even in war. Our city was our glory. Tenochtitlan was our heaven. We were essentially indestructible. We achieved our prestige and empire through hard work and utilizing our resources.
We ourselves created our civilization to give praise to the gods. We established mobility, military forces, and designed incredible temples and buildings. And now, what has become of us? We've been stripped of any and all dignity. We've been beaten down, mocked, and all of our honor and splendor has been stolen by these foreigners, these invaders, the Spanish. We've been treated under such harsh conditions that there are few of us even left. We've lost our society, our home, our family, and our rights. We have lost everything. As if starvation and beatings were not enough, we also now must battle new diseases that the Spanish have brought over. Smallpox has taken many of our lives. I know that we are not the only people who've experienced such travesty. The slaves and cimarrones know exactly how we feel. You too have suffered from the cruelty of the Spanish, and you understand our pain and remorse. We must now take this opportunity to join together. I do not think it is our best plan of action to raid the Spanish or to rebel. They are too powerful, and we will not win. I believe it is in the Crown's best interest and our own to submit to the Spanish authority under the conditions of better treatment. As you are aware of, we cannot continue on at this rate. We are dying out. And even though it is against our nature and centuries of our traditions to accept Christianity, I believe that the missionaries could help us break through to the Spanish and help us finally live under reasonable circumstances. We should agree to convert as long as we are promised the aid of the missionaries. We are left with no other choice at this point. We are and will continue to be punished and persecuted for engaging in our old religious practices no matter what. If we, the Aztec slaves and missionaries, unite, we will have a fighting chance at restoring some of our rights and stature. We will at least obtain, in some sense, a better quality of life. Thank you.
Excellent. And we will hear from the missionaries' third representative, Jose.
Good afternoon, Junta, people present for me today. I would like to begin by letting you, slaves and natives, know that we are not here to harm you as missionaries, but here to save you. For we are a divinely inspired force only working for the benefit and salvation of the souls. To the seculars, we do believe that the best of both worlds is a good thing. But the measures that are being used to make money have gotten out of control. As of now, there's no balance, and for you, making money is a priority rather than saving the souls. Coalition, however, is a good thing. We are both here with the purpose of converting souls. If we work together, we can limit the power of the encomendieros, who have been one of the biggest obstacles in saving souls due to the extreme labor and violence. Encomendieros, please remember that we came to a new world to spread Christianity, not to make money. The goal for you guys now is all about money, and you are harming our conversions. For the natives and slaves see what you guys are doing to them and are afraid to join us. You say that you do your work in the name of God, but do you really think He is pleased with this? Your self-interest has taken priority in everything you do. The crown best interest or the salvation of non-believers is no longer in your mind. The reason why they are non-believers is because you give them no good example of why Christianity is the right way to go. You have lost track of the main purpose in the land. The Africans and natives do not belong to you. We all belong to our Holy Father, who we need to glorify through saved souls. Thank you.
Thank you. And from the provincial bureaucrats, Stefan.
Representatives of Igris, we've heard a lot of flowery words, we've heard a lot of really interesting propositions, but let's lay clear some things. The Aztecs seek to keep their heathen gods. They don't want to convert, they want to mouth the words, they want to keep what they've done. They don't want to convert, and they want to become our glorious Catholic Empire. The missionaries seek to increase their power. They seek to limit what the people have done. They seek to limit what the bureaucrats have run. Bureaucrats have been part of Spanish civilization for a long time. The heart of Spanish civilization is the city, is the bureaucrats, is the government. That is what makes our empire great. The slaves, their property. We really don't need to consider this. They seek to keep our profits. They seek to keep our land. They seek to take everything that belongs to us as Spanish. The Incas, they seek to throw out Spanish power. They want to govern themselves. They want to run their own labor. We've conquered them. We've already faced them once. We faced the Aztecs. We faced the English. We faced the Moors. We've come out on top every time. The Spanish Empire has been great. We wouldn't bow to the English Protestants. We wouldn't bow to the Muslims. Why would we bow to these Indians that we've already conquered? We believe the encomenderos represent the best path forward. The glory of the empire needs to run on the backs of gold. Thank you.
From the secular priests, Max.
Could you imagine a world with no rules or regulations? It'd be complete and utter chaos. If we, the secular priests, did not enforce our regulations upon the Indians, they would revolt against us in response. In order to keep this peace, there must be an appropriate system and an appropriate punishment for the people that break the system. Were there priests that abused their powers towards the Native Americans? Yes, of course there were. But most came to America in hopes of spreading Christianity and not torturing people. When it comes to the coalitions between the regular priest and the secular priest, we should have worked together. We have more knowledge on the canon, while the regular priest made more of a personal relationship with the Native Americans. The Native people were forced to pay money to us as tribute for our work. Now, most people see this as torture or as wrong, but this was our money. This was our payment. This is how we fed our families. This is how we survived. So was it a perfect system? Absolutely not. But is there really such thing as a perfect system? It wasn't perfect, but it was good. And that's all we had. Thank you.
And lastly, we would like to hear from the representative of the Incas, Albert.
Esteemed Junta, representatives of the many nations, many peoples under Spanish rule. We've heard many stories of riches and success, suffering and death. Your own men of God tell you that this inhumane, cruel treatment must end. My people wish you to see that there is a better way. God and gold do not need to be mutually exclusive. In order for one people to have success, another need not suffer. As we said, we see the power of your king and your God. Your God has punished us for questioning him. But so long as our people continue to suffer, order and peace will continue to be difficult to maintain. The encomenderos have proven to be inefficient, corrupt, and although powerful and profitable, their behavior tarnishes the crown. They squabble with missionaries, the secular priests argue with both, and many are only there for their own gain. The Tlaxcalans have proven through their alliance that our proposal can work and can be beneficial for both sides. Imagine how successful you and we could be with the full force of the Incan military behind you. This full force that has taken over 4,000 square kilometers around the Andes. All we ask is for opportunity to prove our worth as allies. Send your missionaries to watch over us. And if we fail, or we anger you somehow, send your mighty conquistadores. We invited All we ask is that you acknowledge that your benefit is our benefit, and our fate is in your hands. Thank you.
Missionaries, as we've already heard, several of the indigenous groups are going back to their previous religions. How are you going to address that moving forward?
We believe that even if we don't convert the non-believers, we have done our duty, and God will do His.
Any other questions? So, I'm torn. I wonder, this junta has received reports of the inhumane treatment of slaves and natives. And I wonder how much the encomenderos and ingenio owners and mine owners are actually spending on purchasing slaves, where those funds might be used as perhaps wage labor. Can these groups perhaps offer some sort of rationale why we shouldn't even consider a move like that? Yes?
There's an old saying that if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. If you don't take them and put them in their place, then they'll take what you give and they'll ask for more. The more you give them ways, the more they'll want. The more that you accommodate them, the more they'll take and the less labor you get of them. The best system we have going forward is to continue what has worked for hundreds of years in the past.
Okay, let's think about this. First of all, you went to the Americas, and then you started treating the natives horribly. And what happened? Okay, well, you realize there's a shortage of natives. Why? Because you abused them. So later you go to Africa and you start getting more slaves. Well, what happens once you start abusing those slaves? You keep buying more, and then eventually all the slaves are going to run out. You're not going to have any more. It's like a never-ending cycle. So why treat them bad? Why not just treat them right, maybe pay them, let them build their own houses, let them live a good life? Because if you keep treating them bad, everyone's going to die. It looks like you're going to have to do your own lazy work. So,
I would actually like to add to that. Paying for slaves once is a better investment, and if they are treated properly, they can naturally reproduce. So you would spend money once and continue getting your slave workforce hopefully soon. But you would not have to continually pay money to buy slaves over and over and over. It would be a one-time investment.
Jasmine, do you want to say something?
Yes, slaves are property, so that's absurd to pay my property. Like, I'm not going to pay money to a chair, so why would I pay money to a slave? The slave is my property. It's a thing that it doesn't have any human rights. It's a property.
Very good.
may I add to that? I remember you said in the Bible, it stated that we were supposed to be treated as property and slaves. May you please cite where you found that in the Bible, please? I'm from Africa, so I don't really know the Bible that well, the Christian faith.
Actually,
I just
I
hope you
think
can
you
introduce me to that.
misunderstood. The Bible was called Noah. It was Noah's shame that caused the African Americans to be condemned and put them into slavery.
How are we different from Europeans?
Sorry?
Let me ask how, because I'm surprised the encomenderos have nothing to say on this situation. I see Jonathan very adamantly raising his hand.
You said about spending on labor. It would seem rather inefficient to pay these slaves and natives for their labors while still expecting them to keep costs down. Our job here is to raise money for the crown. Now, peace and love is fine and one thing, but gold is what's going to drive a nation into prosperity. Our income is what is helping Spain, and to pay slaves for their labor, no matter how low these wages are, it's still an additional expense. It's just elementary business practice.
Do you not provide food and shelter for your slaves? Or is that not considered an overhead?
Oh yeah, of course we do. There's obviously going to be some sort of overhead, but to pay them an additional labor or an additional wage for their labor, we can't and expect to still generate some sort of income.
We don't expect you to clothe us and feed us and shelter us if you're paying us wages. We want to be separate and be our own entity. So we will live separately and use those wages that you pay us to provide those things for ourselves. So it really should be an equal trade-off.
The only problem you might face is now having to take care of your own families.
Okay.
I was going to say, at the end of the day, this Spanish economy right now, they're expanding at such high rates that they don't have like resources to be able to continue to fund these expansions, conquests. So then you guys need money, and most of the money that you guys are needing to expand is coming from us. So we need our resources of workers to be able to produce money for you guys.
Regardless, the strength of the Spanish crown has conquered these people. We don't owe them anything. They are about as useful to us as the food they produce.
We've already won.
Thank you. Yes, Eric?
Sir, we'd like to add here that the justification for colonization is not to achieve gold, it is to convert the indigenous populace to Christianity. So what they just said doesn't go along the lines with the goals the Crown has said and stated out for us. So
You had to be our conscience, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Not only that, but if it were truly God's will that they be slaves, then us, the people who are most associated with the religion, would not be wanting them to be free and have their own and not be that sort of be slaves.
Aztecs, I believe it's one of the members in your coalition who mentioned that you wanted to maintain your gods, yet another member said that you would be more than willing to adopt Christianity. Is there some internal conflict going on between you folks? Nathan, do you have any thoughts?
There's a bit of slight internal conflict between the higher-ups of the people who were educated by the missionaries and the people, the elderly, who want to stick to their older ideals. Basically, it kind of comes down to it. If the junta's main goal is to convert the native populace of the New World, I guess it would be kind of thing as our higher-ups would promote those ideals if maybe we could receive something in return.
What would you like?
We would like our own economic freedom from the Crown, and maybe to pay the junta some type of tribute to allow us to do things how we used to do.
You already paid it. But, okay. Okay. Any questions? So, missionaries, where are you? The Aztecs have proposed a coalition between your group, the slaves, and yourselves. Do you have any objection to that? Or how would that work in your minds? Is that even possible?
Well, sir, it is possible, and we would probably add the addition of the Incas as well, because the more followers of the faith of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ that we have, the better able we are to accomplish your goals as the junta. The only problem with that would be is if they're not willing to convert and they go behind closed doors and practice their own faith, the coalition would not work out, so we'd have to disband that because they're basically lying to us.
I wonder, the Incas, very powerful and compelling proposals, though I heard a little bit of threat in one of the presentations there, and this junta does not take kindly to threats. Is it your intention to rebel?
No, that's exactly our point. Is if you treat us right, we will have no reason to rebel against you. We want an alliance with you. There's no reason for us to try and go against you. You've already defeated us once. We accept your authority, and we know that you're in charge, but we just want to be able to control ourselves. We're like a passive people. We don't want the encomenderos abusing us every day. We can produce more if we're running our own people.
Stefan?
These are more honey words and half-truths. You say that there's no reason for you to rebel if we treat you properly, but the implied threat there is that if we don't, you will. The bureaucrats are responsible for part of the military and running things here. We are the ones who are directly going to be responsible for putting down your threat if you do, and we've done so in the past, and we'll continue to do so. I don't see any reason to cave to these threats when we already have proven that we don't need to.
Albert?
The difference is we wish to work. We wish to go forward with an alliance. However, I challenge you to find any group that under oppression would not rebel, especially when they have a military force already established.
A rebellion doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to come and fight you again.
Exactly.
But we can do exactly what the Cimarrones do, and we can run away, or we can be not productive, and we can ruin all the tools that we use to extract the gold and silver that you want from our lands.
There are many ways to fight, not just one.
Yes.
Are not just sweet words, because if you know, the Inca Empire has more enemies around, and that enemies are together with Spanish, so we don't have other choice to.
Check.
The encomenderos, I heard you justifying abuse to the native populations because of their failure to convert. But is it not part of your responsibility as encomenderos to provide religious instruction?
We encourage people to convert to Catholicism,
But it's not our main job.
but we trust the secular priests and the missionaries to do the front of their job.
We believe that's our job as secular priests, is to first and foremost spread Christianity, and then we will allow encomenderos to let us do our job while they do their job. And our tribute is not one of greed, it's more of sustenance for our families. It's not.
I see you, Barrett. I have a report in front of me that tells me some very disturbing things on behalf of your group. There's been solicitation in the confessionary and abuse by some of the members of your religious group. Can you shed some light on what's happening there? This junta does not see favorably on the actions of the men in cloth behaving in such a way.
Well, we believe that not all, there's been some problems in the past, but we're working to fix that right now. Our main goal is to try to fix our priests, and then we can further convert them to the right way to convert our natives to Christianity.
Okay. Barrett, had a comment?
Sir, I don't believe that the encomenderos and the secular priests have conversion as their top priority or even in their list of priorities, simply due to the fact that they force us out of urbanized areas and push us towards the frontier where there's not a massive population spread out, and that's where they leave us to do our conversions.
We received reports that, in fact, because you had been established in urban areas, that your power bases had grown so great that you felt like you were fairly independent of the crown. Can any of you speak to that?
We might see ourselves independent of the crown, mainly because what the crown represents here, right now, is violence and only interest in money. And that's not our main goal here.
Another reasons for that we might act independent is to further the royal conscience and maybe lift some burden off that due to the encomendero's actions and maybe the bureaucrats' actions as well as the secular priests.
I was feeling a little insulted there.
So thank you, I appreciate it.
Questions? Folks make a really compelling case as well, but legally, I don't know. I'm just not sure. And truth be told, the encomenderos generate a fair amount of income on the crown's behalf. Do you have anything else that might sway us?
Well, if we become citizens just like everybody else, then we would start paying more taxes. If they start paying more taxes, then you guys would benefit. So then you'd be making more money rather than them always having to waste money and buying more and more things and torturing us. And if they treat us like citizens, we can bring them more money. Also, we outnumber them. There's so many more African slaves than encomenderos, meaning we can bring more money to them because there'll be more of us to provide those taxes. And if we convert to the Christian faith, we can also pay taxes for the church.
My question would be, what kind of jobs would you be doing if you don't have any training? How would you pay taxes?
We already have jobs, actually, in a way, but we don't get paid for it. We build the roads, we build their houses, we grow their food, and we even serve it to them.
Okay, I see your hand. I want to let first Jonathan and then Stefan, and then I have a question for the Tlascalans as well. But
So you did it yourself that we generate a lot of income paying, like I said before, even with taxes implemented, you're still paying them X amount of money and only getting a little bit back from taxes, so you would still be taking money away from the crown and generating less income that way.
Stefan?
Okay,
yes, Gary?
I would like to address the Cimarron's concerns about that. And the first thing they said is that they were trying to become citizens. And we all disagree with that because they have no education and it's not that easy to adapt a new culture in which they are being exported to. So that's not a possibility to us. And then the second thing that we would like to address is the fact that they did mention that we should pay them salaries. And we disagree with that because right now they are under our power and they are under our control. So how do we guarantee ourselves that if we pay them, if we give them power, because money is power, they're not going to rebel against us now that they have this power. They can use this power to buy guns. They can use this power to rebel against us later on. And right now, they are actually already rebelling they're already rebelling because they're mistreating our animals and equipment. They are running gossip about their owners, and they are running away from the work they should be doing. So that's what.
That's been a little upsetting for us as well.
You do realize that if you say you're worried we might get guns and that we'll rebel, well, we already do rebel and we already take your guns because you don't even treat us right in the first place. We would do something and you wouldn't like our productivity, so then our masters would whip us and they would torture us and then just break us to the point of us almost dying. So why wouldn't we rebel? If someone was whipping you and someone was torturing you, would you stay there or would you go away?
I think the actions of the encomenderos is contradictory to what they stand for. They believe in extracting as much from the labor force as possible. But tell me why I just came from the Cimarron ranch the other day and there were 10,000 of us. Do you know how much lost labor that is? How many of us would run away? Why would that many of us run away if we were content and paid and felt like we are active, like contributors to our economy?
This junta has also received many unfavorable accounts that on the sugar plantations and mines, there has been some very shifty accounting going on, recording specifically the number of slaves who are on each plantation. Can you folks maybe shed some light on that?
We agree that we haven't always been the best at keeping numbers of slaves, and we know that we need to improve upon that, but we're working to do so in order to have a better number of slave to productivity ratios to give back to you guys.
Okay. I have a question for the Tlaxcalans. So, if we follow your suggestions, you would cut back on the production of cochineal, which is a highly productive commodity for us. Where would we make that profit up? Do you just suppose that we will do it out of the kindness of our hearts?
Well, sir, thank you for the question. The thing is that we just want to survive over here. We want to thrive. We want to live. We don't really care if you're making money or not. The thing is that we, as a people, as Tlaxcalans, we're smart. We allied with the Spaniards, and thanks to the encomenderos, we were able to survive, and we're not subject to the encomiendas or taxations. But cochineal is definitely hurting us. And we will keep on producing cochineal. We will keep policing you guys, but not to that extent. We will not be subjected to your high demands, but we will still keep giving you cochineal as much as we can, but not as much as you would like. So thank you very much for that question, sir.
Okay. You do know that we have the power to take away your lands and the privileges that we've granted to you at the drop of a hat, right? So I'm assuming that this...
Oh, absolutely. We do know that. The thing is, where would you guys be if it wasn't for us? Could you have defeated the Aztecs in the first place?
Well...
I don't believe so.
Those times have passed now. Yes, Albert?
We could actually help them because our crops are plentiful. We have potatoes, and if you have not tried our potatoes yet, I'm pretty sure...
Oh, definitely. Combination of potato and cochineal. How would you like that? Definitely. Thank you very much.
Very nice. Good. Stefan has had his hand up for a little while.
One of the responsibilities given to the bureaucrats is the local magistrate, the administrative justice. If someone breaks the law, we don't sit there and say, you know, you were justified, that we're going to let you continue. If you steal bread, we're not going to say, well, just take the bread because you stole it. If you go and you kill someone, we're not going to say, go ahead, keep killing people because you apparently that's what you want to do. If you run away, if you defy the crown, all these things that people want to do, if you keep heathen gods, why would we continue letting you do that? Because you're going against the holy law, you're going against Spanish law. We have no reason but to put down our foot to punish those who are breaking the law. The fact that you want to continue breaking the law is not a justification for what you have done or to continue doing it.
As the Aztecs, we would like to add something in the sense, one of the main goals of what you guys stand for is maintaining the peace between the natives and the provinces that you guys have control over, but we don't really see that happening. You guys are corrupt. You're only looking out for yourselves, looking out for what kind of tribute you can receive from us, and you're not doing a good job of being bureaucrats and controlling these areas and being good leaders and representing the crown. Well, I just wonder if you can elaborate on that for us.
Well, the jumping off point of the whole colonialization is converting people to Christianity, but honestly the main objective of most of the people here, mainly the Encomenderos and us, are to make profit and give money to the Spanish crown. And that's ultimately our objective. So working, we regulate the markets, we get taxes from everybody, and working with the Encomenderos is a huge profit for the Spanish crown. So that's what our priority is.
Then just to kind of go back on this, why should the Spanish crown trust you if you're doing a poor job of representing them in the world?
I'll let you guys think about that for just a minute while Barrett, the conscience of this particular junta chimes in.
Sir, he just basically put his nail in his coffin right there. He openly admitted to going against the wishes of the crown and the justification for colonization, which was conversion. They're not actually attempting to convert the native populace as we are, and so that basically just proves our point that they need to be much more heavily restricted.
In response to that, we each have our own jobs here. We're all one under the Spanish crown, but I mean, the missionaries have their job of conversion. We have our job of bringing in income. The bureaucrats have their job of regulating and stimulating our economy. We each have our own jobs. Nobody here is perfect. We're all sinners under our Lord and Savior. So no one's perfect. No system is going to work out 100%. And we have our faults. The missionaries have theirs. Bureaucrats have theirs as well. It's just who's the lesser of all evils.
I see. And final word, Hunter?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Just it's all departmentalized and everything. We still are working under Jesus Christ, but the ultimate, like all the colonialization and the Spanish Empire is trying to continue to take over more land and prosper in more areas, and that is, we will be unable to do that without our income and the way we give money to the Spanish crown.
I want to thank you so much. I know that you've all worked very hard. Please give yourself a round of applause.